And of course, we got Jory Jansen joining us here this morning. Jory, what's going on?
Just getting ready this morning.
We've been talking about morning routines here. We've been talking about those that get up at 4 a.m. to chase the early board, those that get up at 6, 7, 8. Jory, what time do you start your day? Are you like, I got to hit my day at 4 or 5 or with 6? What time does Jory start her day at?
I start my day at 6.
Okay.
Yeah, I start at 6. I sometimes try a little earlier.
Yeah.
That doesn't necessarily promote the best version of me. And I need to be mom, wife.
Yes.
What works for you?
So, Business Athlete Nation, Jory Jansen, our resident nutrition expert, diet expert, food expert, joining us here every Monday, Wednesday, Friday for a highly enjoyable experience conversation we call the protein break. And over the last number of weeks, we've been talking about macronutrients and micronutrients and different foods and so forth, and fats and carbs and proteins and so forth. And today I wanted to take the conversation into a little more of an advanced conversation, which was around strategic approaches to nutrition and this idea of nutrient partitioning, about directing the nutrients you eat towards building muscle and minimizing fat gain. We hear often, and I know John, I'm sure Johnny and Marty roll their eyes often in this conversation. They hear bulk. Boy, I'm in bulking phase right now. And the guys get fat and then lose weight and get lean. What we're going to talk about today is, in simple terms, how your body decides where to store the nutrients you consume, whether it's in your muscles or as fat. And again, we also talk on this show about, it's not just about losing weight, it's about losing body fat. What are your goals? Is it body composition? Is it about getting fast and so forth? So let's get into the basics, Jory, John, Marty, about nutrient partitioning. And I'm going to just start off, but it's like your body's traffic controller, deciding where calories go to muscle recovery, energy, or fat storage, depending on your activities and diet. Athletes, bodybuilders like John often use this concept to enhance their physiques while staying lean. So let's get into this, Jory. Talk a little bit about nutrient partitioning, insulin sensitivity, et cetera, et cetera. Where do you want to start today, Jory?
I guess probably the biggest part to start with is sometimes it really depends on how well trained you are to how efficient your body will utilize nutrients. So if you're someone that's, just starting out, you might find that your body's changing and you've got more energy just by creating some small changes. But over time, if you're looking to either get stronger or build more muscle, there is this threshold in terms of a depletion of where you're going to optimize both of losing some body fat and also gaining muscle mass. Now, you can still gain a decent amount of strength when you're in a higher deficit, but you're not going to build up a lot of muscle in most. Now, this is in mostly not elite level athletes. This is more of people that work out for health and just starting out. So there is that threshold of a 500 calorie deficit where you still can gain quite a bit of strength. You can still build some muscle and body fat. But once you get beyond the 500 calorie deficit, that's where it's harder to build the lean muscle mass, but you can still get strength gain.
Yeah. Hey, John, looking at you, brother, insulin sensitivity. So insulin sensitivity is a major player in nutrient partitioning. When your muscles are more sensitive to insulin, you and I have talked often about this offline, but when your muscles are being better to absorb glucose and nutrients, leading to more muscle growth and less fat gain. So John, as you going through your professional journey of 4 decades of lifting and eating and training, how would you advise our Business Athlete Nation listening right now? How do we improve insulin sensitivity? Jon Anderson.
I think that's a slippery slope because we've all heard these tales in the gym about people triggering their insulin and getting big and strong. And they also have a very strong possibility of getting big and fat because insulin is a transport hormone and it's powerful. And if you trigger your insulin too often, or if you trigger and you eat too much, the muscle, think like this, the muscle is like a holding tank, right? And let's just say that you train hard and your muscles they're at a half tank. And then you basically, after your workout, you trigger insulin and you start eating. Well, the muscle can only hold so much. Once that muscle holding tank is full, that's the term spillover. All of that nutrient can't go in the muscle. So it spills over. It can't go in this tank. Guess where it's going? In the fat cell. So this idea of insulin, yes, it's very powerful, but it's a slippery slope. And people don't understand how quickly you can get fat if you don't understand how to control using triggering insulin. Well, I think when it comes down to it, I think if people understood insulin a little bit better and they understood how the body works, they would perceive this hormone very differently.
So then, Jory, John, I'm going to come back to you guys. Listen, so resistance training is key. And then eating a balanced diet with lower glycemic index carbs and timing your carb intake. And I know, John, through a lot of your philosophies and principles, not so much on the carbohydrates, but if we're talking endurance and different athletic goals, let's keep the conversation global. But when you're eating a balanced diet with a lower glycemic index, carbs, and timing your carb intake around workouts can significantly improve insulin sensitivity and nutrient uptake. So let's talk about this, because I love your analogy, Jon, about filling up the muscle tank. So Jory, looking at you, when Jon talks about that, talk about, Jory, the lower glycemic index carb that somebody wants to eat.
Yeah. So lower glycemic,
not the tank up improperly, like Jon talks about, Jory.
Yeah. So lower glycemic, just for everyone's basic needs, it's foods that are really high in fiber content. So they're going to take longer to break down in the gut. So you're not going to get that quick, fast rise as if you had some gummy bears or jelly beans, right? And sometimes you need that. But for most, when we're changing body composition and we're working out specifically for that, we're looking at high fiber content. And so carbohydrates, protein, so like chicken's not going to be on the glycemic index. That's protein. But your carbohydrate sources, yeah, you want to have complex carbs, because the fiber content, now that's an F word we can share all the time, fiber content is going to take longer to break down, and with that slower release, that's going to be better. Now, changing body composition, the other part of fueling strategically, so you're going to need time to digest that, so you don't want to have it 30 minutes before a workout, or depending on the amount, I suppose, that you're eating. But a higher fiber content can also make you not feel awesome during the workout. So time it out at least an hour, if not 2 hours, and that should help in terms of releasing the glucose that you need. But yeah, you want to make sure that you have that balanced intake of those complex carbs, because they are slow releasing. That helps in terms of insulin sensitivity, one of the markers of helping insulin sensitivity, which is going to help glucose transport. Now, if your cells don't have that glucose, have that quality workout, you need amino acids, right? So that insulin helps in terms of amino acid availability. So that way you're building and repairing. You're going to have that recovery time afterwards. So that's going to help that workout tomorrow again, and you're not going to have that muscle soreness. So that's the glycemic index side of things. You're going to have, your body has rises and dips throughout the day. That's called normal living, but you don't want those spikes and elevated spikes for too long, because then yes, we do have that chronic stress response of cortisol. We need some cortisol to be able to live life, but to have that chronic elevated stress response isn't going to help in terms of the body composition change.
Yeah. Johnny, comments?
And real quick, I just got to jump on just to help our listeners understand. There's no question that understanding how to trigger insulin at the right times can be drastically helpful. But somehow the bros in the gym turned this into, oh, let's eat a bunch of candy after our workouts. And eating all this shit, triggering your insulin, is really become like I don't know, it's so misunderstood, and people think they're doing themselves a favor. And it's really what it comes down to is it triggering insulin? Yes. Is it triggering too hard when you're eating a bunch of shit like that? Absolutely. Are you getting the nutrients in from the candy you're eating? No. So it's really backwards, the way that the bro science of insulin has got people thinking about this totally backwards. The idea is to slightly trigger it and then shuttle in all the nutrients that the body needs to actually help it do what it wants to do, rather than shuttle in a bunch of preservatives and shit that the body has no idea what to do with. It's like putting gravel in the stomach. And then the body's going, shit, okay, my insulin's triggered. There's no nutrients here. I guess I'm just going to take this sugar and I'm going to fill up the fat cell in my tits. And that's what ends up happening. People get fat.
You know what I love about this segment, Jory and Marty, is that we bring Jory's knowledge and experience to the table, but then we bring Jon's 40 years of actual life experience of doing these things, because we talk about this so much, right? Like, to live a lifestyle, fitness or nutrition, you got to try. You basically got to say, okay, I'm going to do this for 7 days, 14 days, a month, or 3 months, and you enjoy the process. So it's one thing to have all of the knowledge as possible, then it's put into action. When I hear Jory give these analogies of using the muscle tank and so forth, it takes the knowledge you put into practice through Jon's perspective of real life, and I find it so easy digestible. Do you know what I'm trying to say, Jory?
I do. Yeah, you have to bring it down into usable terms. And I like the part too, in terms of not just fueling with some quick, easy carbs, whether it's those monster drinks or whatever it is people are enjoying, but there's key nutrients in food that actually help with hormone balance, which then impacts how the body's going to recover. Protein and amino acids, absolutely. But we also need calcium, we need magnesium, we need zinc, plays a huge role in muscle recovery. Iron for oxygen transport throughout the body, and B vitamins, all those sort of things. And if we're not getting food, real food in, you're you can pop a supplement if you want, and that's like a little insurance policy, but it's not going to help with the big gains that you want to gain out of your work.
And all the stuff that Jory just said, all the stuff that we need, the nutrients, that shit is not in the fucking Milky Way, just so everybody knows.
That's why I love joking with you guys about this idea of counting macronutrients. As Jon said, this is going to give you your fix after your workout, but you're not going to get the micros. And again, I'm the kind of human that likes to know the science and the numbers behind it. So I know I can get my calories and my macros here, but I'm not getting my micros. And my nutrients are what drives my health and my nutrition. So nation, to Jory's point, to Jon's point, don't just crush the chocolate bar after the workout. Go find some nutrients in your food. So here's the recap. Nation, focus on improving insulin sensitivity, timing of meals around workouts, using macronutrients, guys, not chocolate bars, to balance to enhance nutrient partitioning. Nutrient partitioning is all about directing the fuel you put into your body. It's like Jon talks, eat for, what is it, Jon? Eat not for pleasure, it's eat for
purpose.
It's not for pleasure, right, guys? It's a game changer.
Not to say that you can't wrap some pleasure around your purpose. But when you're eating purely for pleasure, it's summed up like this. If you eat the average American, I'm sure we could probably say North American, you eat the average North American diet, you get the average North American disease. That's because the average North American eats for pleasure, not for purpose. There has to be a mixture in there. You can eat for purpose and really enjoy your food if you wrap some pleasure around your purpose. But when you are eating for pleasure, you got some big problems coming.
Yes, yeah. Jory, as always, great conversation. You're always dropping nuggets here in the lab here Mondays and Wednesdays and Fridays around just bringing stuff up there. And I like it. You bring it up, you set it up, and then Jon takes what you set up and says, and use these real life examples of this is what's happened over the years, right? So I love it. Jory, thanks for coming in today. You got a big day ahead of you today. Are you ready to rock and roll and attack Monday?
It's going to be a good Monday.
Oh, yeah, there you go. All right, George Jansen, the Protein Break, every Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 8:45 Eastern Time, mornings in the lab. And hey, we're working towards doing like a question and answer, guys. So on Fridays, if you're hearing things, you're curious about what Jory's saying or Jon or Marty are saying, write your questions down, bring it to the lab on Friday so we can throw some questions on the table and work towards an AMA with Jory Jansen on Fridays for the Protein Break. All right, Jory?
All right.
Thank you, Jory. Always a pleasure.
Have a good one. And hey, guys, there it is. There's the sound effect.